Okay, friends, just a few more notes on the practice. As I mentioned, I was going to give a few more instructions on the sitting posture. And the ideal sitting posture is what they call the tripod, where both knees and the buttocks have a good grounding to the floor. If the knees are up in the air, that's a very unstable position, and it will also be almost impossible to keep your back straight because the center of gravity is thrown off when your knees are up in the air. And also it's more of a struggle to keep your back straight. So that's why ideally, in the perfect world or with the perfect yogi body or whatever, both knees and the buttocks have a good contact to the floor, and also the buttocks to be raised up about 2 inches higher than the knees. That's why we use a cushion, because when the buttocks are higher on the knees, that helps you to keep the lower back, the inward curve of the lower back in its natural position. But when the knees are up like this, it's almost impossible to keep that inward curve. And that inward curve is very important because that supports half of the weight of the body is from here up, bones and flesh and organs. And gravity is always trying to pull it down. So that's why nature made that inward curve of the lower spine for a purpose, to help support the upper body. So, but most people, of course, they haven't done the proper type of exercises to strengthen, their spine and the muscles in the back and so on. So it's very difficult for them to do that. So the higher the buttocks are up, then that helps to lower the knees down to the ground. So if you find yourself, with the knees still up, use an extra cushion, experiment a bit, use an extra cushion to raise the buttocks up a little higher, and see if that helps. Or if the sitting cross-legged position is difficult, then of course you can use the positions like using the benches like a few people have here. They're kneeling straddling a bench, and that helps to keep their rear end up higher than their knees also. And a lot of people ask about how they should put their hands in the meditation. So usually the two popular position for the hands is, them kind of resting down like this, or people, put them on the legs like this. The position of the hands isn't all that important perhaps, but what is important is, again, keeping the back straight. If it helps you to keep the back straight, to keep that natural inward curve of the spine there, then it can be all right. But I recommend people to raise their hands up a little bit, not let them just hang down like that, because that pulls the shoulders in and constricts the breath in the upper chest, and eventually it causes this downward creep. So holding the hands up, even though it might take a little extra effort, that would be the effort to pay attention to the body. And it will help to keep the shoulders back and help to sit more straight. After a while, you'll get used to this, and it won't be much of a problem to just hold the hands up. They shouldn't be up too high, but just about an inch below the navel, lightly pressing that abdomen area, just so that they're not pushing on the legs. Because if they're resting on the legs, gravity will keep pushing them into the legs and cause discomfort also. So just keeping them slightly up. And as they do in Zen, they touch the thumbs together. Although you don't have to do that, but That's just an extra mindfulness of the posture point to pay attention. Because if you lose the attention to the posture, then those thumbs will pull apart like that. So especially when we're trying to cultivate mindfulness of the posture, because again, mindfulness of the posture leads easily to mindfulness of breathing, because the breathing is occurring within that posture. So if we're not aware of the posture, then you might not, be lost on, in thoughts. Or if you're just following the breathing and not the posture, then you can still kind of get out of it, and that will affect the awareness. So awareness of posture helps to maintain awareness of breathing. Also, the breath can come in more fully, and you get more feeling there when the breath is able to kind of come in and even come up into the middle, or even sometimes the upper part of the chest. And there's a lot more to notice. So, as I mentioned before, the two aspects of the meditation, or qualities of the mind. One is the mindfulness, which means the alertness to the present moment. And the concentration being the connection, keeping the connection to the body or the breathing, or both. Because when you're aware of the body, naturally you will be aware of the breathing inside of it. And so you can, the more you can notice, then the more the mind will have to stay focused. Otherwise, if there's not too much to feel and notice, the mind easily either gets lost in thoughts or kind of goes to sleep. But when you're feeling the breathing body, and even though you might be focusing on to feel the expanding and the contracting sensations, I know a lot of you may have practiced, focusing at the tip of the nose, but for body-based mindfulness in Vipassana, keeping the attention, feeling the breathing in the center of the body will help keep the mind more open and alert to other sensations, and which will be important as you go on in the development of Vipassana. So anyway, these are just suggestions, and so the breathing, always being able to feel and remember the breathing and or the sitting. Sometimes you might feel the breathing longer and try to follow the little subtle movements of expanding, and then the brief pause. Noticing the pause also is very important, because usually in the pause people's minds wander because they've never been taught to notice the pause. So if you give the mind even a nanosecond of idle time, it's out of there, So to follow the whole in-breath from beginning to end, all the little movements of expansion, and the pause, and all the little movements of contraction, and the pause, then you don't give the mind any blank or idle time to get lost. I mean, still it will, but at least to help minimize that. And in the pause between the breaths, to kind of just momentarily just check the posture, make sure the chin hasn't kind of gone down or the spine is starting to slouch. Check that inward curve of the lower spine and just mindfully try to come back up. And even if you do that, because every 5 seconds it's going to be better than just sitting like this for 20 or 30 minutes and then getting aches and pains. So developing that habit to always check the posture and come back. That way you strengthen the muscles of the back also. And that will later on allow you to sit straight without really paying much attention to it. So balancing mindfulness and concentration, this is the skill of the meditation. So the mindfulness is the alertness, the concentration is maintaining that connection to the breathing body is remembering sitting, breathing. Although you don't have to make those notes, but they are helpful to do in the beginning. But again, to pay attention to the beginning, the middle, and the end. That means the in-breath starts, the abdomen starts kind of expanding, and then the middle part, you might feel some sensation in the middle rib cage. And the end, you feel that moment the in-breath stops, and then notice that brief pause. And when you're aware of the pause, then you'll be there for the beginning of the out-breath, and the out-breath starts contracting. It lasts for a moment or two, and stops, and then again there's a pause. So like that is sort of what we try to cultivate as the main object of the concentration. And to notice that each breath is different. It's always changing. No two breaths are the same. One breath you might feel more sensation in the abdomen. In another breath you might feel it more in the chest. Or another moment you might feel it even in the upper chest. And from time to time to deliberately or to come back and take deliberate deep slow breaths. As I mentioned yesterday, I'm going to go over this more in the afternoon yoga class about what I mean by deep slow breathing, but basically it means like taking 2 or 3 seconds to breathe in like this. And holding in the breath, feel that nice kind of full feeling in the chest, giving enough time for the oxygen in the lungs to get into the bloodstream and to get out and charge up all the cells of the body, and then you feel that relaxing contraction of the out-breath. Try to ride the contracting out-breath down to the end, like coming down on an elevator. And you feel that the contracting of the stomach and chest, ride it down to the end. Feel that last tiny bit of air go out. And then the pause. And then the next in-breath coming in. Now in the beginning that might feel a little bit difficult, but don't strain at it. Just as you do that, then it'll become easier. But then you get very concentrated doing that. And so the effort to pay attention will be the effort not to get lost in your thoughts or go to sleep. Those are, again, the 2 biggest hindrances, are spacing out, which means kind of just a fuzzy mind or half asleep. Just like the dimmer switch. Keep that little image in mind. And when you're meditating, if you've noticed that your head has gone down like this, be aware how that dulls your consciousness. And then mindfully take a deep breath and just mindfully straighten up. It's almost like a light bulb being pulled on inside your brain, the difference in the quality of the alertness. So that will, give yourself your own kind of proof that, keeping the back and head in alignment is, important for maintaining alertness. And the alertness is for the purpose of gaining concentration. And then pain. Dealing with pain as you sit longer, and different discomforts and pains will come. Those are also important. And to try to endure the pains a little longer each time. This is not a torture chamber, but when you feel that initial kind of urge to want to move, or you feel some painful sensation, first of all, just be aware of that. Be aware of painful sensation. And kind of just try to watch it, observe it, and relax around it. The body or mind is tensing up, just tell yourself to relax. And just try to observe those sensations as they well up, come to a peak, and change or diminish. Many times they'll disappear. Try to relax the muscles around those painful areas. and the mind. It's the mind's reaction to pain that actually increases the pain. So you have to relax the mind that's getting upset or tense because of the painful feeling. And it comes to a point where you need to change. Like if you have the idea to go up and strangle the teacher because he's not ringing the bell soon enough for something, and it's better to mindfully change your posture or even stand up. So if the pain gets too much that it's really obsessing your mind, if you're moving around too much, there's a kind of a rule of thumb. If you have to move more than 2 or 3 times in one sitting, it's better to stand up than just keep kind of squirming around and so on. You stand up, do standing awareness for some minutes or even longer, and then you can sit back down again or continue standing until the end of the session. So the breathing body acts as like the tethering post. It's the anchor to the present moment. Or like in meditation is like training a wild dog. So you got an unruly dog and he runs around and barks at everybody, jumps up on everybody, so you have to put a leash on its neck and tie it to a post out in the yard. So when the mailman comes, bicycle comes by, he may run and start barking, but then he reaches the end of the chain and can't actually bite or jump up on somebody. So it's the same way in our meditation. The breathing body acts as that anchor to the present moment. And when the mind is connected to the breathing body, then you can easily see when the mind starts tugging and wanting to react to a pain or a thought or even a sound. And so you can, it reaches the end of the chain and then you bring it back to as soon as you notice it, you're coming back to the breathing body. So again, this is what we want to initially work on, cultivating this habit of learning to check the posture and to develop that connection to the breathing body and the alertness, especially when you're starting getting drowsy. Just don't drowse out and so on. Best thing to do is take some deep, slow breaths whenever you feel a little bit drowsy or the spine is slouched. Take a deep, slow breath. You can take 2 or 3 of them. That gets you really rooted, grounded back into the body, and then let the breath go back to its normal rhythm and continue to observe those lesser types of expansions and contractions, but you can kind of go back and forth with that. If you have too many thoughts, come back and do some deep, slow breathing. Because, it takes effort to do deep, slow breathings, but that effort is a good effort. An effort about staying grounded and connected to the present moment. And just one other thing about the posture. There's a center of gravity of the head and spine over the hips. And we want to try to find that center of gravity. So as I already mentioned, when you're first sitting down to try to establish that natural inward curve of the lower spine, and it shouldn't be over-exaggerated, it should be just natural, but you can kind of feel that. And then gently stretching the spinal column upwards, feel the head balanced on top. And then move the whole head and spine backwards a little bit until you kind of get close to that tipping point, that point where you could either tip backwards or tip forwards. And it may feel a little bit strange in the beginning, but that will be a good straight posture. As I mentioned, gravity is always trying to pull us down. But if we have the center of gravity, the minimum pull will, because it'll be deflected around like this. But if you give it more surface, the gravity more surface to grab, then, then it becomes harder to resist it. So to minimize the pull of gravity, to maintain the posture, again, that would be a very good foundation for deeper meditation. Otherwise, people beat their head against the wall, trying to keep awake and trying to keep straight because they, haven't done their homework, so to speak, or they haven't, done the kind of the exercises that helps to strengthen the back muscles, the neck muscles, to be able to sit like that more. So does anybody have any questions about any of that? Can everybody hear me in the back? Okay, this is working. I was wondering about this morning when the microphone wasn't on and I was giving some guidance during the meditation. Could people in the back hear me? Yeah, but, sometimes it's not on, so. Yes? Because mindfulness meditation is based on the Buddha's teaching of the four foundations of mindfulness. The body comes first, which includes breathing, postures, movements. So you use the breath to help get centered in the body. But once the mind becomes centered in the body, then the body itself, the subtler sensations in the body, helps to take the attention deeper inside, and it also helps to be aware of the sensory stimulations that are coming through the senses, which is important for vipassana meditation, and to help develop the awareness of impermanence, or anicca. You may not understand that right now, but little by little, hopefully it would become clearer. So the focusing the attention on one tiny point is good for one-pointed concentration, but you can become too quiet. The mind can become too relaxed and quiet when you're focusing there, and then it's also easy then to kind of space out, or you lose the awareness of the body. So this is a training in eventually developing vipassana and moment-to-moment attention. So by keeping the attention focused in the center part, then you're kind of in the middle of the nervous system, and you can easily see sensations that are going on around it and so on. And that also helps to make the awareness very bright and alert, which is important for the vipassana aspect. Okay, so we're going to be sitting for a while, and then we're going to come up, like this morning, mindfully stand up, do a standing awareness. Standing awareness is a very powerful form of meditation also, but people often never mention it, or not much. But it can be a powerful way to meditate, especially people who have a lot of pain in sitting posture, and also sleepiness. In standing, you probably won't go to sleep, because the danger of falling down is there. And it may not be so painful, at least for certain parts of the body. And we stand around a lot during the day, right? Waiting for things. So if you know how to maintain awareness in standing, then it helps a lot. And then we're going to go in and do a walking meditation around inside of the room. Okay? So on the posture and the expanding and contracting sensations of the abdomen, rib cage, or the chest. Yeah. Because there's more sensations there. I think it's easier for most people to follow that, because this is a very subtle one, and it's not easy to keep the attention there. So again, just place your hands somewhere where you think you can keep them without moving them for the whole sitting posture. And just get comfortable on the cushion. And also with the eyes, you can gently close the eyes, but if you tend to fall asleep easily, then once you get initially inwardly focused, you can slightly let the eyes open a bit to help stay more awake. Otherwise, just keep the eyes gently closed. It helps to stay inwardly focused. First of all, just feel the buttocks and feet pressing the floor. Just mentally feel how the legs are tucked underneath. Feel that pressure, sensations of the buttocks pressing the seat. And feel your hands and fingers touching. And feel some subtle pulsation in your fingers or hands, where they touch together. And feel that natural inward curve of the lower lumbar spine. And just imagine how that supports the weight of the upper body. Feel the clothing touching the skin of the stomach, chest, shoulder. Just gently straighten up the back, the spine. Try to imagine some space between the spinal vertebrae, so the blood and electrical energy can freely circulate. And feel the head balanced on top, like balancing a basketball on top of a broomstick. Keeping the chin lifted up level to the floor. Just mentally feel that straight posture. Relax the shoulders. Relax the face muscles. Feel your lips touching together. Feel the eyes resting in the sockets and the eyelids stretched over the eyeballs. And then very slowly, mindfully, just move the whole head and spine gently backwards until you kind of come to that, close to that tipping point. Try to mentally etch or photograph that feeling of the straight posture in the mind's eye. Just remember sitting sitting, sitting. You can imagine balancing a tall stack of books on top of the head in order to keep the head and spine in a straight line. Then, like looking through a microscope, looking through a magnifying glass, kind of tune the attention into the center of the body to feel the breathing process. You might take a couple of deeper, slower breaths to clearly see or feel the expanding and contracting movements of the abdomen, the rib cage, even the upper chest. Take some deeper breath to get the air up into the upper chest, to feel that nice kind of full feeling in the upper chest. And then the out breath. Breathing in, letting go of the past and future. Breathing out, sitting here and now. Breathing in, letting go of the past and future. Breathing out, sitting here and now. Just try to feel the beginning, the middle, and the end of the in-breath, the expanding in-breath, and the brief pause. And the beginning, the middle, and end of the contracting out-breath, and the brief pause. Just follow the contracting out breath down to the end. Feel that last little bit of air go out of the lungs. And feel that pause. And the next in breath. When you get kind of tired of that deeper breathing, a certain out breath, just let the breathing go on its own. No longer control the breath, but maintain that awareness in the center of the body, down by your hands. Feel the beginning of the in-breath, expanding of the abdomen. You can just shorten those mental remembering to simply in, sitting, out, sitting, in the ground zero, bottom line, present moment. Remain object of concentration. in sitting, out, sitting, here and now, moment by moment, breath by breath. The pauses between the breaths, check the posture, feel the outline of the sitting posture. At the same time, be alert for drowsiness, or alert for thoughts sneaking up in the mind to steal you away. Just recognize it as sleepy, or thinking. Take a deep breath. Stay grounded in the body. Awake to the present moment. Just pay attention or feel where the clothing rubs against the skin of the belly, rib cage, or chest. It expands and contracts. Those fine, subtle sensations help keep the mind awake, alert. Just notice how each breath is different, sometimes longer, sometimes shorter. Sometimes you feel it more in the abdomen, sometimes you feel it more in the rib cage or chest. It's always changing. It's like looking through a magnifying glass or a microscope. Try to notice subtler movement, sensations of the breathing body. If sounds distract the attention, remember this hearing, sounds arising and vanishing in the background. Staying connected in sitting, out, sitting. Just relaxing the body and mind with each out breath. Into the present moment. catch the mind lost in thoughts, recognize it as lost, lost. Find the body sitting on the floor. Take a couple of deep, slow breaths, rerouted, regrounded. In, sitting. Out, out, sitting. Breath by breath, moment by moment. The mind is struggling or tense. Tell the mind to relax, relax. Notice the mind wanting something. Be aware of wanting. If there's an urge, be aware of urging. Just relax around that. Stay connected to the breathing body. In sitting. Out, sitting or standing. Thoughts come and go, sounds come and go, various sensations, pleasant or painful, come and go. These are all just the changing conditions of the impermanent world through the body and mind. Just underneath all of that pain or chaos or sleepiness is the ever-present moment connected to the body nervous system, the breathing body, the here and now. Now take a deep, slow breath, straighten up the body. Just place the hands at the edge of the knees. On the next in-breath, stretch the head back and arch your lower back, pulling the hands against the knees to arch back a little more. Lift the head up, and on the out-breath, press the chin to the top of the chest. Stretch the neck vertebrae. Just feel all those sensations. And lift the chin up level to the floor on the in-breath. Relax on the out-breath. Keep the mind focused on the body. Don't jump to the future. And slowly begin unfolding the legs. Be aware of the changing sensations, and the relief of discomfort. And slowly stretch the legs out to one side. And flex the toes a few times. Toes and arches of your feet. And keep the heels about 6 inches apart and make some circular movements with the ankles and feet a few times in each direction. Nice, slow, mindful, circular movement. Again, the forward stretch, hands at the chest, in breath. Out breath, touch the chest, and then reach forward to the toes. Hold that position a little longer. Feel all the stretch sensations in the spine, in the back of the leg. Reach forward a little more. In breath, sit up. Let the hands just rest on the knees. Close the eyes. Just mentally feel the body exactly as it is. Buttocks and heels pressing the floor. The hands and fingers on the knees. Straight back. Clothing touching stomach, chest, shoulders. The head resting on top of the neck. This body is the true home for the mind in this life. The body is the natural resting point for consciousness. Whenever it's not actively doing something, it automatically should come to rest in the present, in the middle of the nervous system. Then draw one foot up at a time toward your body and the other foot. And place the hands on the floor. And try to kind of lift, push the body up. Try to come up into a squatting position. Feel those painful sensations. Feel the hands and feet pressing the floor. The present moment. And on an in-breath, try to feel the muscles in your legs pushing the body. And pulling the body all the way up straight. Be aware of any dizziness. feel deep, slow